No, I'm joking.
No, you're right. How's Supercross 2025 prep going, Mitch? I definitely want to ask you about how everybody's looking, who you got on East and West, and then how's Drew Adams? And is there a chance Drew jumps into the pro class here?
We don't have a plan for that at the moment.
Okay.
So, like, if somebody got hurt, we could use him as a fill-in guy because he is riding with us, and he looks really good.
Does he?
So, I think he could do it without a problem, But I think we have 5 guys, and I can't really. Like 5's a lot, and 6 is. It sounds like that's just another guy, and it's easy, but I think it's an enormous amount. And plus, right now we have a brand new bike, and we haven't got really all the parts we need to get everything done. So to extend that even farther would be impossible right now.
Okay, and then which coast are you guys going?
They're all going West Coast.
Oh, okay. 5 guys. Well, they probably will all be at the West Coast.
Yeah, that's the plan. Be ready for Anaheim.
Cheaper.
Listen, Mitch, I already know. I already got my spies. I have my intel. I've gathered up like a little squirrel gathering chestnuts up. I gather chestnuts of knowledge, and I stick them in my cheeks. And I know, I already know what your
something's in your cheek.
I already know what your coasts are. I already, yep. You're gonna have Kitchen on the west, McAdoo and Hammaker on the east. Masterpool is east also, I believe, and then so that leaves
Hammaker.
Marchbanks and Kitchen are west. That's your lineup. Those are my chestnuts.
Oh. Well, you got to watch out. Maybe you got walnuts, not chestnuts.
Okay, all right.
I don't really know. Like, everybody used to think, we were up to some big scheme or something like that. And realistically, I think Paul was around in those days. Where like it'd be 2 weeks before and somebody would get hurt.
Yeah,
it happened almost every year.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, like you tell the other guy, hey, you're gonna have to go ride West Coast. I'm not ready. I need more time. And so then my answer for that was,
be ready.
So let's think about this. Do you want to ride a 450 someday, right? Yeah, why wouldn't I? I'm a better 450 rider. We all have heard that.
We all heard it. Everybody, yeah.
So what's interesting is Mitch is getting older, because back in the day it would have never started with, so let's talk about this. That's not how the conversation would have started.
There wasn't a lot of let's talk about this in 1991.
That's funny.
Yeah, 91. I don't even know. 91, it was kind of set in stone. Jeremy would be west, because even back then, I mean, Skip will tell you, that dude was 100% committed, convinced, and do you remember I wanted everybody to have the same name on the back of the helmet? And Skip came to me and he goes, Jeremy wants to talk to you. About what? I'm like, his helmet. He has no freedom. He dresses like everybody. You got to give him something. I'm like, what does he want? He doesn't want McGrath on the back of his helmet. He wants Showtime. And I'm like, for real?
Yep.
And I'm like, all right, okay.
Showtime.
And honestly, he was one of those kids. I mean, Skip, lived the whole career, but I swear to God, he thrived with, if there was 50,000 people and they were screaming and the lights are flashing, some guys get nervous. That dude absolutely thrived on that. I don't know how, even as a kid, I don't know how he did it.
Yeah, no, your point about the coast is well taken. If you tell Rider X, hey man, you're going east, so they're kind of just chill, they're just sort of training, but they're not. They want to peak on the East Coast, and all of a sudden, hey, Levi tweaked the wrist. We need you. In their eyes, in their mind, they're not ready. And
a couple of them have said, "Why do I got to do it?" You're ready. You just got to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to say Dino got hurt Christmas Day one year, and we were supposed to ride west. And we were riding on Christmas Day or something like that, or day after Christmas or something. But it was late in the year. Yep. And somebody else has to step up and ride that coast because he couldn't go.
Yeah, we've had Orcel broke a collarbone with 13 days before the opener, and I think RV did his wrist, like it was bugging him, and finally got it done. And I mean, barely. Like it was just like stuff happens. You got to flip them. Like you didn't plan on it, but things just happen. And I feel bad for the 450 guys too, because like they know they got to be ready in January. And like you guys just said, like those last 2 weeks, it seems like we lose a couple. Everybody pushing a little harder, trying to find that edge. Like they're trying to mark their teammate, or they're marking somebody they're riding with, and they're like, shit, I got to hang it out a little bit. And then, wah!
Yeah.
Mitch, how's the new bike going? I know it's a little bit different, and I know I'm working with it now as well with Aiden, but like, where are you guys at compared to last year?
I think we're really good. In the beginning, of course, every single time I get a new bike, I'm scared to death about it, because, it had a lot of improvements, which I like. The chassis I wasn't scared of at all, because like from the old chassis to the new chassis, when they raced it as a works bike in Europe, I think it was Fevre. When the first time he rode it, was blown away how good it was, and had better traction. It was calmer. The front end was more planted, because I talked to them, because we do exhaust for them. And I was really stoked to hear that. And then the U.S. guys got it the next year, and they kind of backed that up with the same comments. And then when our guys rode the new bike, they said, God, this thing's really, it turns really nice. It's like really good in the whoops, And I'm like, oh, that's good. So it kind of gives you a calming factor that, like, yeah, we got to dial the suspension in, but the chassis itself is really, they made a major improvement. Like, it's really, really good. So then it puts the pressure back on the engine, right? And the engine, the other one, we had a couple of years with it, so it got really, really good, And then you're like, shit, got a brand new motor. But the things they did to the engine, I totally believed in. That it's, like I always wanted a straight exhaust port. I wanted a straight intake port. It's up higher, so it's more of a downdraft style. And I'm like, that's going to be awesome, But still, when they changed it, it made me have to make all new parts. So just the dynamics of getting pistons and cams and different valves and all these things, the lead times with all the vendors that we use, it just takes time, And like we've got parts out to people, and we're like, dude, we got to have them before Christmas, And like we've got test parts, but then, like you test it and you like it, well, now you need 10, you need 12. So then you got to order them, you got to expedite them and rush them, and that costs more money and stuff. But we're there. The guys like the bike. I have a couple, like I have goals to beat last year's bike in each part, bottom, middle, top, everything. And we're really close on everything but one spot, and I'll get that. So I'm not stressed on it. Like, it makes me feel really good. And everybody really likes the bike, and we're riding. It took a little bit, I think, at the beginning, because we made it quite a bit quieter, because, if they go through with what they're talking, not this year, but next year, we have, like 109 is a big difference.
It's a big jump.
And so we're working on that now, because Europe has to do it this year. So we've got some time to work on it, and it's made us educate ourselves what we're going to have next year. So we have got quieter, but then we kind of, are we too quiet? What are we doing? We're too quiet. We got to make it louder. So
put a crossbar on it.
I know. Run the pipe through the crossbar and blow that out.
Because you just made the new pipe for the bike, and we just hopped on it and put the pipe on it, and it's rare that you find an aftermarket muffler that can make more low end feel, right? And it's crazy. You put that on there. We just put it on last week, and I'm like, oh shit, it actually has more low end, because that stock muffler is so plugged up. I think there's some room in there for Mitch and Schneike to make something, and it was actually quite good. So yeah,
it was too, and the U.S. model it's the same internals, but it's 2 inches shorter than the European muffler. So if you can imagine the European muffler being 2 inches longer with those internals, it is a little. It's not quite at 109, but it's quieter by quite a bit, and we've got it now. Like even like for Europe, we can get down to like 110s and it's still got good performance. So like I'm really stoked. But we didn't really work hard on the pipe because I knew that was something that was gonna, in my opinion, when you get it quieter, usually you lose power. So like it was a lot. We've got head pipes and mid pipes and mufflers and stuff everywhere, like to try to accomplish the goal we want. But I feel really confident we're there. So I feel good.
Is there a rider in the preseason that's impressed you a little bit? I mean, like all your guys are really good. McAdoo at the red plate. Kitchen was winning races. Drew's fast. Is there a guy that, just for whatever reason popped out a little bit more than you would thought going in, like in the preseason?
Well, obviously I think Levi looks really good. I think Cameron looks really good. Garrett's had really good lap times at the track too. What do you call it? Seth has just started. Hold on one second. Somebody's coming up.
Donnie Monison, Tyler Garrett.
This is like this is actually like just talking to Mitch in the office. If you just
hold on one second.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah. If you just go to.
I went in and talked to Mitch one time.
Yeah.
And I sat there for 5
I
minutes.
want to look at it. Yeah.
Nothing was
Hold
said.
on.
Right. I was like, should I?
All right.
Should I go?
He's a very busy man.
Yeah.
But no, everybody looks good. So Seth has just started riding, so like I haven't seen a lot because he wasn't even cleared to ride Supercross until the 30th he got cleared. So he was riding outdoors and doing that. So that's one thing. And then Ty's been out here, and he looks really good. Maybe a little bit more. He's going to have to focus a little bit more on the whoops because he hasn't been like quote the Supercross guy. But honestly, on the track, he has really surprised me. He's done some stuff on the track that no one else has done so far. So like he looks really good too. I wouldn't say he's behind. It's just that you got to remember he's coming in, and then you're putting him in there against guys that have been out here riding already. So like
sure.
I think they all look good.
I think the key to your team, like when you look at it from the outside, McAdoo and Levi and Hammaker, if he can stay healthy, they're all proven to me. They're all going to be up there, win races, get on the podium. But Marchbanks, he's all over the place. Some of it's bad starts, maybe because of his size. Some of it's like, not this past year, but in times he's gotten rattled and made bad mistakes, and like he kind of mentally maybe falls apart a little bit and makes mistake after mistake. It looked like he cured that this past year. But to me, Mitch, no rider on your squad sort of has a wider window of like the best place finish and the worst place finish than Marchbanks to me. Like he can win, and then other times
he's won Daytona, and like then all of a sudden okay, so like that happened. And I'm like, holy crap, he beat Chase, and it was like a no-brainer. And then 2 weeks later, we're back to kind of where we were. So he did have a lot of up and down when he rode for me. But, like, I see him at the races and I watch him and stuff, and I think he goes for it. He's tough, and I like that. And, I feel like there's a guy that I wanted another guy, and I'm like, I want to take a chance on Garrett again. Like, I like it. We got to see what we got. If he brings it to the race, his size is always a little bit of a problem for the start, but his starts have been pretty damn good, and he's really happy with the bike. So, to be happy is good. So, I don't know. We'll see. I feel confident. I wouldn't have it, like I told him, I wouldn't have him here if I didn't think he could win.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he can. Other times he gets 7th, and I'm like, what happened? But
it's rare that you see him get a good start and go back to 7th, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think it's more like start based, and then he's up in 7th to 10th, and it's hard to move up. So.
Right.
And I think Skip could talk about this probably, but in the past, I know that sucks to talk about the past, but like it used to be, one of the races I have memorized in my head, I can't tell you what year. I think Jeremy was on a Yamaha and Ezra was on a Cowie, and they got, both of them, I don't know if they got tangled in the first turn, but they were like 14th.
Oh, this is Phoenix.
13th. I don't know, but I'm like, they're not going to win. And I start watching the race, and they're coming through the pack. And then I looked, and it's 10 laps to go, and I'm like, holy crap, they're in like 6th and 7th. And I think Jeremy won the race.
Well, yeah.
And he was in like, I can't even tell you, he was so far back, but anymore, it seems like our sport, I don't know if the bikes are there's more parity in the bikes, or the tracks are more familiar, or they practice more than they did, so like every track is easier. But I say indoor and outdoor is a lot start related, and I don't like that. I wished it was more like the old days.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. Whoops are smaller, starting grades.
Oh yeah, no.
And I think too, and now you can. I mean, obviously, doing starts on the 4-strokes now. You're limited to how many you can do. The heat issues, the clutch issues. There's so many limitations on just being able to end your day and do 30 starts. I mean, that you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yep. No. And the greats have equalized the starts, right? Because if you got, quote, a bad rut, and you're working on it or whatever, and then I don't know, like it just seemed like it was very. But there was always, like for sure, always in the past, there's guys that always got good starts and guys that didn't and stuff like that. But it seems like it's more. I don't know. I wished it wasn't like that. I wished it was more to where if a guy was really good, he could come from 10th and win the race, because that's amazing for the fans to watch. It sucks if you're in 10th.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
it does seem like you got to be in the top 3 a lot of times.
No.
Yeah. I think if you look at the starts now, when if the start finish is 3/4 of a lap or longer into the session of that start lap, 10th place could be damn near 6 seconds behind, and if you're only a half a second quicker, man, that's kind of tough to make that up, especially if your guy's out front and's got clear track.
And 9 whoops and all the stuff Paul mentioned.
Well, exactly, right? 9 whoops, no dragon backs, all these different variables. I mean, I was just at Mini-O's, and it feels like what Mitch is saying is very similar to Mini-O Supercross. And you can ask Ryan Holiday this. Ryan's watched so many races there. He has yet to see anybody in any class ever start outside the top 5 and win a moto on that track.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
And what Mitch is speaking to, start cross and greats and all these things, like you're taking away variables that separates people. And when there's a whole bunch of whoops, some people can go through them when others can't. And I don't love any of these changes at all.
And I agree with that. I think the 9 whoops thing is something that I feel like, I think they're doing it, quote, for the safety of the rider, right? Because they had so many times in the past 3 or 4 years or 5 years or 6 years where guys are hurt and they're out, but it wasn't always the whoops that took them out. But then they see the B guys crashing and all that kind of stuff, and they're worried they can't do it and all these things. But I felt like the same thing. I felt like, man, that's an element to attack in. Like that's where you can get some work done. If you're behind a guy, you can get close to him and then wait for the whoops. And if they're long, fight your way through it, blitz them, figure some rhythm where you blitz, drop in, jump out, something. But now 9 is sometimes going to be, send it, jump in, and maybe jump to the last one, or I don't know. Like I feel like that's not going to be the element that it used to be.
No, for sure. Definitely helped Vial win that title last year, without a doubt.
100%.
But, hey, Skip, before we let Mitch go, Mike Hooker tells a really funny story of back in the day when you guys were all starting Team Peak and starting this Goliath that it became with all these championships and wins. He quit on Mitch one day. He got really mad. They got in a fight. He quit, and then he had to walk home because he forgot his truck keys, and he just stormed out of the shop and then they had to come back.
Flip-flops, if he tells the story right. Yeah.
And then he had to go back and get his keys and apologize to Mitch and get back to work. What was your biggest blowout with Mitch over the years? What was your biggest one?
The first time we were on the road, I'd like to think that I was more of the responsible guys at the time that was on the road, and I came back with all the expenses that we had,
Yeah.
And I sat down, and he goes, what are you trying to do, screw me here? And I go, well, I'm the only one that had a credit card that was paying for all the hotels. And but then Mom intervened, and that was the best thing that ever happened.
And then my mom intervened, and she says, well, the only problem I got with this is, and I think, and you got to remember, these guys are all young.
We're
and
kids.
They were like literally just on the road, got a box fan. Half of them, he's telling you the truth. Nobody had a credit card, so you'd have to give a little money. Well, then the money's gone. Well, do you have a receipt? I lost it. My dog ate it. I'm like, oh my God. Well, then when I started looking at some of the receipts, they're low per diem, and the old way guys used to cheat was they would get gas and put everything on the gas card, and they'd eat at the gas station.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, like, what? Jesus Christ, we got like this, that, everything at the gas station. I said, all right, let's break it down: gas, oil, and that stuff. Like, let's take some of that stuff off. But it was comedy because they were great guys. Like I you know what, couldn't have made it without them, because and they'll tell you this. Like Skip, they used to go on the road, and when they went back east, remember Skip, they would go to your parents' house and camp out.
Yeah, we tried to have fun and try to cut corners and just.
That first year was 2 bikes in a van, right? It was 2 vans, 2 bikes out of each van, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So who'd you get paired with?
It bounced around a little bit, but it was Buell or Lammy usually.
And did you buy the vans from Factory Honda, or did you do them all up yourself?
No, we had to use vans.
I think one of them. Well, actually, maybe I did. Let's see. I bought Buell's van.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Because he had a van, so that was one.
Hey, you're on the team. We'll buy your van.
Yeah, and I think.
And I might have bought 2 used Honda vans.
Yeah, mine was a Honda. Mine was an old Honda van.
Yeah.
The low version.
Listen, I'm old enough that I did the circuit in a box van with Red Dog in '99 with Nick Way in '02. I couldn't imagine sharing a box van with another mechanic and another bike and like building 2 bikes out of one van. Like, no thanks. Like, no, that's a lot.
That year we got to Bud's Creek. Skip will remember this. First of all, Honda told me after, I think, Supercross, we were out of parts. And they said, so you're going to have to pay for the parts for outdoors if you want to ride. So I talked to Gary Mathers, and I'm like, how can you do that? We won both coasts, and we're leading the outdoor championship. And he tells me, read your contract. I'm like, what does that mean? He goes, read it. He goes, it says Supercross and Select Nationals. If you don't want to go to all the Nationals, don't go.
Oh, no way. Really? That first year was Select Nationals. Yep. Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'm like, is this guy serious? We're leading the championship. And he's like, why don't you just pick 3 or 4 of them and do them and call it a day? And then, of course, I talked to all the guys, and they're like, is he serious? We can't do that. We got to race. And I'm like, we're going to race, but you guys got to help on parts a little bit, like kind of tone it down. But we got to Bud's Creek, and every set of cases, from popping the bearings in and out, and we'd put them back in, and they'd Loctite them, and they were all, every bike sounded like, or vibrated bad.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
And we would, like, I remember at Bud's Creek, I got there on, I think it was Friday or something like that afternoon, and it was late, and they were all out in the parking lot. Feel this one. I'm like, oh, that sucks. I'm like, do we have another motor? Yeah, but we've changed the bearings in that. So we put another motor in it, and that one's bad. And then Hooker was there. So then I tried to call around to some shops trying to find a motor if I could find, or cases, couldn't find anything.
Yeah, we bought a couple bikes that year.
Yeah.
So me and Hooker took the rent-a-car, and I went to the shop, and I bought a Honda and pulled the front wheel off or whatever and put it in the trunk. And we came back, we got a bike. And we actually we didn't split it. All we did was pull the top end off our bike and put it on a brand new bottom end, and that's what Lamson raced.
I was going to say, who got the brand new bottom end? Lamson did.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Imagine MXA back in the day. Well, I think it was Swink was leading. Imagine MXA. Brian Swink leading the points. Mitch Payton decided not to race round 4, so Brian lost the points lead. Yeah. I mean, right? That's basically what it would come down to.
Yeah, but we learned a lot. I mean, you by necessity, you learned, you can do maintenance. You can do some things to get some life out of the parts. And it was good. It was a good experience.
Well, and in those days, like, Skip was, like, splitting his motor every single weekend and putting main bearings in it. And I don't think a crank, right? But it was main bearings every week. And I'm like, we're like, dude, you got to stop. Like, so, like, and nowadays, even on the 4-strokes, like, you get into a rhythm of, like, the bike doesn't even really run that good the first week because everything's kind of tight, not settled. And then all of a sudden, when it relaxes, then it runs really good. But then you're, like, afraid to run the part too long, so then you got to swap it out. But we learned a lot, and, like, honestly, like, I don't know, like, we all assume that's what everybody did, right?
Well, Mitch, I went to Yamaha. They don't want to touch their bikes at all. When I got to Yamaha as a factory mechanic, I was doing more work on Nick Way's Moto Triple X bike than we were doing at factory Yamaha. Like as far as the time on the crank, the time on the bearings, the splitting. Bob Oliver is just like, yeah, man, you got 8 hours on that thing. And I'm like, what? Like the Yamaha was all about just leave that thing alone. I did the linkage in Supercross. I used to grease the linkage every second week with Nick Way. Every second week. Break it down, grease it, pack it in. I got the Yamaha. They're like, yeah, man, 8 races in, put a whole new linkage on, leave it. And I'm like, what? 8 races? They're like, yeah, it's greased. It's fine.
Never service it in 8 races?
Never service in 8 races. I mean, unless we had a mud race or something.
No sand sections or nothing?
Well, not back then, yeah. It was just.
How many times did you guys win back then?
Well, Chad Reed won quite a bit.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. But, yeah, it was just bizarre going to Yamaha. They were like, back it down on the work, kid. Don't need to do that.
And you learn to pick up signs. You can pull the primary cover off and you can evaluate that side of the engine, and you can, there were signs that you would go, okay, this is going on, so we need to look deeper. But you learn to do things differently. Yeah,
or if you got kind of heavy on a clutch, you're like, okay, the clutch strains this, it strains the gear load, blah blah blah. You can kind of.
So, but it was experience that it was a phenomenal experience.
And so it was you, Buddy Morgan, Pete Steinbecker. No,
it was.
What's the first year?
Skip, Wyatt Seals.
Oh, Wyatt, yeah.
And Buddy. It was just 3 of us.
And Buddy. Oh no, because Buddy replaced. Remember, Fred Andrews' brother Joel.
Yep.
Joel did it too, and then Joel stressed out because I think it was Gainesville. Lamson was leading, and his shock bolt wasn't tight or something like that, and he lost that moto. And he's like, I can't do this. He goes, it's too stressful. He's like, I'm out. And then actually, believe it or not, this is a true story. So it was those 3, and then Hooker would fly in, and him and Lammy were buddies.
Yeah.
And then they would get. I think you guys would build the bike, and then he would just.
We would get as much prep as we could get done.
So you build another bike, 3 guys.
Yeah. So and Buddy would be, Buddy would kind of float as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was whatever had to get done.
Yeah.
Just got done.
Yeah. What a time.
And it wasn't even that uncommon because back in that day, DGY had a team, and they were bare bone too. I think Suzuki was the only factory team, and then Chaparral had a team, and hell, Big B drove for them, and they rode in the truck and everything. Because it was like everybody seems that we were cruel. Nobody had any money. It wasn't big money back then.
Yeah.
That was the big part about being able to. I mean, my parents opened up the farm. Everybody would pull in there and park and plug in, and I mean, everybody could save on hotel rooms and.
Yeah. One of the coolest things I have in the studio is Mitch gave me an original Peak team shirt that you guys wore, hanging up over there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty unique thing to have.
I had a guy come in the brewery the other day with, remember the first cards, the playing cards that came out?
Yeah.
He had one of the Peak cards, came in, wanted to get it signed. That was kind of cool.
Yeah. No, it's pretty cool.
We were lucky because honestly, that was it was a dream to do it that way. And like I said, believe it or not, I was offered the Yamaha 250 factory team the year before.
Oh.
From McCarty.
Yeah.
And I turned it down because I just didn't know if I was ready for it, because it was a lot of work, and then I'd be gone from the shop and stuff. And I remember we sat down at Anaheim, and I think it was Hooker, Bones, Jimmy Perry, and myself. And I said, dude, if I sign up for this, I mean, everybody's going to have to help. I mean, I don't even know what workload this is. We built, bikes for the Superbiker race once a year. We did bikes for Roger for the USGP in '90. We built 5 bikes and got the whole shop behind it. But to do it every week in, week out, I'm like, I don't even know what this is going to take, And we just did it. And like I said, if it wasn't for the guys we had, like Wyatt and Skip, they already kind of had a good grasp of it. Buddy was the service guy at the shop. Fred Andrews' brother Joel had been on the Nationals with him, and Hook was helping me he was going to school, doing R&D, like building pipes.
Building
like,
pipes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just kind of, to be honest with you, it was kind of a dream for everybody, and just everybody just had to make it work. And if it wasn't for that group of guys, it would have failed.
And just think about winning both championships.
Wanted it to fail.
You won both championships indoors. Outdoors, you were leading for a while, winning races. Yeah, it's just incredible effort out of the gate.
Burst onto the scene to do that
right?
is rare.
Yeah, like Mitch said, DGY was around, but they weren't winning.
Right,
they weren't doing that.
And we had Skip can tell you this, but like the year before, HRC had a full bike, an HRC bike and stuff, anyway. So they brought that out, and we got to test against it. We did have it at the shop. We weren't supposed to have it at the shop. Well, Dave Arnold said, pick it up. And then I said, so I drove down there, and they said, you can't have this. I said, Dave said I can take it. So I took it and immediately get back to the shop, and I'm like, pull it apart. Pull it apart, degreed it out, and checked some stuff. And honestly, it was an amazing, that was what Bale and Kudrowski rode.
Right.
But it wasn't like, I'm like, I wouldn't have done it that way. And I'm like, so am I wrong? Because they're HRC.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably smarter than me, so I should probably just do it like them. And I'm like, no, I can't do it because they had a couple parts that I couldn't make, so I had a different idea of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pipe didn't have very good bottom, and it really didn't have the good over rev, but it hit really hard or whatever. So pipes were my bag, so we built a couple pipes for it. And I remember we went to Honda Land. Cliff brought the HRC bike,
yeah,
and we brought ours, and Lamson and Jeremy rode it, and then they rode that one, and they came back. I'm like, are we all right? They're like, yeah, you don't need to bring that one anymore.
Cliff's so mad. Cliff is so mad at this point.
But it was also that single day really set the tone for the riders.
Right.
Because
it
set the tone for it set the tone for the team because we realized that all the work that, was being done was working.
Sure. Yeah, I can imagine being a rider and being like, well, I just rode the Bomb Ash amazing bike, and ours is as good or better right now.
It was like, to them, it was like completely like hands down, you don't even need to bring it anymore. We're not going to ever compare against it.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, and it was, I was fortunate enough to have worked with Mitch and Bones and all those guys at Team Greenside because they did all the off-road stuff at that point. So there wasn't a confidence issue on my end, but we definitely needed to set the tone that we are as good as anybody out there, and that day really put us over the top. And it was.
That was at Honda Land. That was at Honda Land.
I think it was Honda Land. Yeah.
Yeah, it was at.
Yeah,
Honda.
it was Honda Land. And for me, I was scared to death because I built stuff for Yamaha and Suzuki, Honda, and everybody before, but a lot of it was, I did Suzuki 125s. I built a lot of stuff for them, and then '89 I built all the factory Honda bikes. They tried all this stuff, and they said, we're running yours. And then, but to do the whole team, I'm like, fuck, man, what if I blow it? I said, and all I could think of was people are going to laugh at me. Like I said, that's going to piss me off. I'm like, because they're like, and then we go to the first race at Orlando. We never had a bike together. We had graphics, flat sheet stickers done by Throttle Jockey at that time, and we cut them out with scissors in the hotel room, and we're putting them together. We had gas tanks that were red, painted blue. We got the dream going, but it seems a little rough.
and we were light years ahead of all the reflective materials in our number plates, and not one photo from that night worked because they all had flashes.
Yeah,
it was nothing but starbursts in every picture we had from the night. It's like, oh,
so they told us, you guys got to take those off. You can't run those. And then this was another one. Is Skip wasn't going East Coast, so we had this guy Omar build these awnings, and I couldn't run pop-ups. I thought it looked cheesy. So back in the day, we had a box fan, and I came from car racing, and I said, I want it to look like a semi, like with a straight out and then a down and a balance, So I didn't know if we had a sponsor, so I built one that said Honda on it, and then we got Peak, and then we built that, and then Skip there. And believe it or not, the guy built 2 awnings, and none of the poles would fit each other. So it had to get marked. So Skip had to put both together and mark them. But Skip didn't go to the first race.
Oh, shit.
Oops.
Tried to make.
And we still have a picture upstairs of everybody trying to put this awning together, and it was like, I don't know, what does this mean? And I think I had one of those big bricks, and I'm trying to call Skip, can't get a hold of him. and then Wyatt, I remember Wyatt popped off and said, do, 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 you know, like a circus.
Yeah.
And I got everybody together, and I was embarrassed myself, and I got everybody together, and I said, I don't care what the fuck it takes. You guys better get this fucking awning together, and you got 10 minutes.
This is what we had everything. We had everything labeled, and somebody unloaded or something and mixed
it all
everything up.
Yeah.
So something
Right.
really, really minute happened, and it just messed everything up.
And then,
but when we got it all together, every factory team came over and said,
Badass.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That looks really
cool.
sick. Yeah. And I was stoked, but I was like, I'm to the point I'm ready to scream, but I can't scream because everybody's looking at me, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
And we didn't have cell phones back then, so you couldn't call me up and go, what the hell are you thinking? Where's your, all this shit. So.
Damn.
I think I had one of those big bricks, but that thing worked half the time, like trying to call California from Florida, and that probably didn't go.
Yeah. Well, come a long way from there. A lot of number plates on that door.
Yes, there are.
Yeah.
Tell you the top 3 things in my motorcycle life is going upstairs.
Yeah.
When we went upstairs that one day,
right?
There's so much stuff up there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I could be up there for 3 days, and just look at everything,
Yeah. We had Skip came down one night, and I think maybe even Jeremy was here. We went up front, and we're looking at those old Peak bikes, and honestly, we thought they were works of art.
Oh, man.
And we're like, oh, my God, look at this. Look how skinny the pegs are.
Yeah.
And, all these things. And remember, Skip, we bought titanium bolts from Keith Biddle.
Yes.
Oh, Biddle bolts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Biddle bolts.
Biddle bolts.
And we're waiting for him. It's the first race, and he goes, I'll try to bring him. I'm like, our bike's put together. And he would bring, half of them, and we're like, oh, my God.
Now you got Chuck.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Well, thanks, Mitch. Thanks for the walk down memory lane. I really appreciate it. We got.
Hey, and I gotta before we hang up,
yeah.
I gotta give Paul credit.
Okay.
Because Renthal, so their product is phenomenal.
Right.
And when Paul went over there, I had kids on P-dubs and 50s and stuff like that, and I'm like, dude, you got to put the hard ends on the grips. And so that was my first discovery, right? And then he's like, we're doing that. And when they did that, if you fell down, the grip didn't just rip, and then dirt's getting under the, it's a pain in the ass, and you're in the garage and changing grips on a mini bike. Kids are watching you. What are you doing? Let's go ride. So that was one. And then the lock-ons. Lock-ons are phenomenal because you don't have to be some genius to know how to safety wire and all the, the glue stuff and all that stuff. And I'm so happy they're going to do this. And it's going to take them to another level. And I'm stoked they're doing it because for me, to have kids riding, it's sick. It's like going fishing and having somebody put a worm on your hook.
That's fucking awesome.
Well, Mitch, when it comes to putting grips on, there's 3 elite mechanics in this studio right now, so we didn't have a problem with the glue and the wire because we're elite, right?
Hey, whatever happened to? That's a good question, Skip. In the beginning, didn't they used to use spray paint?
Yeah, because I remember we had, at the beginning, the first grips we got when we were testing the grips, they were all clear because they were working on compounds and they didn't have any of the dyes or anything.
Yeah.
And we were going through all kind of stuff because, it was always, put a little paint or whatever, but we go to put some paint in the grip and the bottom of the grip melted off because they were so tacky and soft.
Yeah.
So that whole transition of how we could how we could adhere some of these grips because the compounds were so unique that nobody had ever seen anything like this. We struggled with different types of glues to put on, and man, we were trying everything to get these things to develop them because the guys fell in love with them instantly, and it's like, okay, now we got to figure out how to put them on and get them to use them on a regular basis. But that whole time frame was really cool.
Figuring that out, yeah.
I had fans come up to me and they said, you know what you got to do to stop the end of the grip from blowing out? I'm like, can't wait to hear this. I don't remember if it was a penny or a nickel, and you put it in the end of the grip.
Yeah, yeah, that was an old trick.
I put a penny into the grip, and then the glue won't. I don't know. And I'm like.
And now we've learned it's just the dye and the paint.
Yeah.
You can use clear spray paint. You just can't use a colored spray paint.
Interesting. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
And you didn't make grip glue, so then everybody bought super glue, and then if you weren't very fast with it, your grip is stuck halfway on, and you're like, holy shit. So, it's came a long way, and they've done a great job, and so, I applaud them for doing it.
No, it's really cool. Like I said this earlier in our interview that you're going to hear tonight, no grips were gray. They were never gray. No one thought of gray grips. And then Renthal's like, yeah, let's do gray grips. And they made such an impact in such a market. Then everyone else was making gray grips.
Correct.
And it's like, why? Because you want to be like Renthal. You want to make gray grips like Renthal. And Reese Williams and Paul Taylor tell us on the interview we did on why the grips are gray. Mm-hmm. So, interesting.
I honestly thought they did it because a lot of works parts were aluminum and gray. And if you had a black grip, it was just production.
Black looks heavy, too, right?
Yeah, it looks heavy. Yeah.
And when I saw that gray grip, I'm like, oh, we need those. Because, honestly, a factory guy is not going to run a neon green grip, right?
No, definitely not.
He's not. He's like, nope. Different color grips.
Yeah. Thanks, Mitch. Thanks for coming on.
All right.
Appreciate it as always, and we'll see you in a couple weeks, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Mitch.
All right, we'll see you guys.
See you, Mitch.
Take care, Mitch. Thank you.
That's Mitch Payton, everybody from Monster Energy Pro Circuit. Guy who knows a thing or two about winning. Absolutely. All right, we got a couple calls. We're going to go to commercial break here.